Mother left her inheritance to her two sons, but what she gave to her only daughter was surprising. Hi everyone, and welcome back to True Stories. Today's story is about family disagreements and a daughter's bitterness when she discovers she was excluded from the inheritance. That is, until she finds out that her mother had been hiding a secret from her for many years. Before we get started, remember to like the video, follow our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos. Their mother had left a will. The eldest son would get the house, the middle child would get the car, and the youngest daughter… The true story you will see in this video was sent to us by Isabel, the younger daughter in question, who wanted to share this incredible story with us. A few years ago, in the Argentine capital of Buenos Aires, there was a couple who lived happily. They had two sons, but after some time decided to adopt a girl. Years passed and the children grew up. The oldest fell in love, left university, got married, and went to live alone with his wife. The second son moved to another neighborhood to be closer to his university, renting an apartment with the help of his father. The third adopted daughter was still a minor, so she stayed at home with her parents while she continued her studies in high school. But the happiness of the family, unfortunately, suffered a horrible blow. The father, the backbone of the family, suddenly died of a heart attack. It was a tragic and unexpected day, but the worst was yet to come. On the day of the funeral, neither of the two sons showed up to say goodbye to their father. The youngest daughter, on the other hand, did her best to console her mother, who was already devastated by the loss of her husband and further saddened by the absence of her children. The mom did not understand. The father had always been present and generous with his children, even to a fault, and had taken care of them all his life. Why weren't they at his funeral? The eldest son apologized, saying he couldn't take leave from work, and the second said he was in the middle of an exam period and had to study. The woman had no choice but to accept their apology, and after her husband's death, she received her inheritance. She became the owner of the house and everything they shared before, including the modern and expensive car that her husband had bought with his life savings. Then, suddenly, the two children went home to visit their mother. They'd heard about the inheritance and they absolutely wanted to talk to her about it. The eldest son asked, "Mom, leave me the house. I have children and you know that living where we are is already difficult as it is. The rent is high and before Dad was able to help us. You could stay with us if you want." As for the second child, he began, "Dad's car could be very useful to me because public transportation in this city is a disaster. It would help me a lot with my studies." But the older brother didn't want him to get the car. "But you don't even know how to drive. Besides, I need it too. I have children, you know." And the other retorted, "Yes, but I need a car for my studies." On and on the two argued. The youngest daughter listened in silence, while her brothers quarreled like two jackals over their parents' inheritance. Until suddenly the mother blurted out, "I'm not dead yet. Stop it. I'll tell you what I'll do." She told the eldest that he could live here with her, but that he would not have ownership of the house, and the second would not have the car. The two brothers, infuriated, left, slamming the door without saying goodbye. Over time, the boys' visits to their mother became less and less frequent, and even when they showed up, it was always to ask for the inheritance. They couldn't understand how their mother wouldn't give them what they wanted, but the woman had realized something. It was wrong to spoil them and give them everything they asked for. It was her and her husband's fault that they had spoiled their children from an early age. Frustrated by their mother's refusal, the brothers gradually stopped visiting her, realizing that they had nothing to gain. After some time, the mother's health began to deteriorate. Only Isabel, the youngest daughter, was at her side. Every day after school, she came home to cook for her mother, who had suffered a stroke and needed help with many things. And a few months later, unfortunately, the mother had another stroke and didn't make it. The loss of her husband and the realization of how greedy her children were had been too hard of a blow for her already fragile health. Before she died, however, she left a will. The eldest son inherited the house, the second the car as they wanted so badly, and Isabel, well, nothing. Her name didn't appear in the will. Isabel couldn't understand it. How was that possible? She had been the only one to be close to her mother in recent years. What happened to get her excluded from the will? But suddenly, the girl remembered that her mother had said something to her before she died. "My daughter, I want to give you this box that I've always kept under my bed. I have kept it for a long time, and I want you to open it when you turn 18. This is my present to you. I'm sorry I won't be able to be there with you." The girl took the box from her mother's room and put it in the closet. She followed her dear mother's instructions and would wait until her birthday to open it. In the meantime, as soon as they received the news of their mother's death, the two brothers began preparing the documents to collect the inheritance. They seemed more relieved and happy than hurt. The eldest told Isabel, "Since you're still a minor, I don't want to take responsibility for you. You're not even my sister, and to be honest, I'm not going to support you. I'm sorry. Ask my brother for help. Leave it to him." But the girl knew well that the other brother would say the same thing. Fortunately, the mother had thought of everything before she died and had contacted Isabel's aunt in a nearby town, who had agreed to let her stay. Isabel packed her bags and moved in with her aunt, where she was welcomed with open arms. Her aunt was a teacher that had never married, and she was happy to finally have some company. The weeks passed and Isabel's birthday had finally arrived, and she was finally able to open the box that her mother had left. It was full of all kinds of things, like dust and mothballs. Most of them were photographs from when she and her siblings were younger. But when she got to the bottom of the box, Isabel realized that there was something wrong. There was a double bottom. With the help of a knife, she pried it open and found a letter written in her mother's handwriting. "My daughter, forgive me if I don't include you in my will. If I leave everything to you as I wish, your older brothers would become your guardians, and they would do anything to get a hold of your inheritance. And once you are an adult, you would have nothing left. Your father and I didn't own much, but there is something you need to know. Your father had a brother who never married. He was an established journalist and he owned several houses, and he did quite a bit. He died a long time ago and left your father most of his possessions. We never talked about it with you. Your father didn't want to. He never wanted anything from his brother, but he was the only heir. I couldn't leave you anything, so I registered all this to you and your aunt. Your brothers don't know. Believe me, it's worth a lot more than the house and car. Once again, forgive us if we weren't good enough parents." Isabel and her aunt then found other documents that confirmed the contents of the letter. They had indeed been named heirs to an enormous fortune. What an incredible story. Sometimes it turns out that children can be the cruelest people, especially when you let them think they can have whatever they want. Luckily, this mother saw her mistakes and made up for it, and in the end did the right thing. Better late than never.